Hello everyone and welcome. Sit back, relax, make a cup of tea or whatever you like to drink and get ready for news stories from Yellow Cat. Send your own favorite stories in the comments below and maybe they'll be in our new video. So subscribe to the channel if you're not subscribed yet and let's get started. Have you ever made the decision to leave your job in the middle of a shift? What reason if so? Part 8. As a manager for 3 undergrad classes at a private college, I worked 70 hours a week to get student showcase projects ready for the end of semester show. A few years ago, another staff member and I made the showcase so that graduating students could meet people in the business world and show their family and friends their work. 4 of the projects were immersive VR works that had to be set up and tested on specific sites. This took a long time, most of the week after classes and into the weekend. The showcase happened on Sunday afternoon and went really well. Many of the students got jobs after their demos and everyone had a great time. I had already asked my immediate manager for the following Monday off as toil, and he or she agreed via email and follow-up text. When I got back to school on Tuesday, the college manager called me into his office and told me I couldn't take the time off because I didn't record it on the correct Google spreadsheet. Instead, I needed to take the day off as annual leave. I laughed and told them I wasn't going to do that. After 3 days, he called me into his office for a surprise meeting with HR, him, and the national campus manager. The national campus manager called me rude, uncooperative, and disrespectful, and he said he would never see me do this kind of thing again. I informed them, you won't. I quit. I got up, packed my stuff, and quit a job I had for 7 years. This was the very last straw that broke the camel's back. Bonus: I knew almost everyone qualified for the job across the country, and some of them internationally. I told everyone not to apply, so it took them 2 years to fully replace me. That time, fewer students stayed in school, fewer new students came in, and the work got much, much worse. It's too bad for the students, but F the company for being so rude to me. From the US, moved to Taiwan to teach English at a private school. There was a nice picture at the school before I moved there. The school only speaks English, so you don't need to know Mandarin. They're also very welcoming to new teachers like me, and there will be a Taiwanese assistant teacher in your class. They even offered you a $1,000 loan with no interest to help you get settled. When I got here, I decided to take out the loan, even though I had enough money with me already. The extra money would help me get settled in a little better. I was told that they had to hold on to my passport until the loan was paid off. That's not cool. I was the only English teacher at the school when I first started. The staff was all Taiwanese. Soon as their contracts were up, most of them left. Even though I was told everything would be in English, everything, computers, copiers, etc., was in Chinese. That being said, I quit even though I had a contract because I wasn't given much training or even shown around. I thought I would know everything on the first day. And the young woman in her early 20s who was my Taiwanese teaching assistant was a total jerk to me. She would often scold me in front of the students, even though I'm the main teacher in the room, English teacher. I would get attitude and rolling of the eyes whenever I had the slightest question, like what folder to put something in. Also, since it was a private school, she told me that nobody can fail, which meant that failing grades had to be changed to just barely passing grades. I was so unhappy and hated it so much. I've lived in Taiwan for a few years now, and she's the only jerk I've met. It's unbelievable how nice and helpful everyone else is, and I love it so much. I then found another school that was hiring, and even though I had a contract with the first school, I chose to quit on Friday. It was Tuesday, and the teaching assistant's bad mood was the last straw for me. I quit, she said. She started telling me, you can't quit, with her mouth wide open. You have class tonight. The parents, what about them? I told her that it was no longer my problem and that she is the official reason I'm leaving. As a safety maneuver, I went back and finished my last class. I then told the main office all about the teaching assistant, which was something I'd done twice before, and that I was leaving because of her. I later learned that she was probably fired or given a very harsh punishment because they were already short on English teachers and it was hard to find new ones right now. They made a lot of money by telling parents, we have native English speakers to teach your kids because learning English is important here, and she made them lose a new teacher. I spent 6 years working for a company that rented out tuxedos. In the industry, that is a very long time. After their first wedding season, most people give up. For the previous 2 years, I'd been trying to get a job as an assistant manager. They continued to employ non-industry personnel. Every time they would leave after a year, I was informed at work that I had been passed over for the 5th time in a row and that someone from outside the industry had been hired instead of me. I gave up there and then. My manager looked shocked. "I've worked with you specifically for the past 3 years, woman. We had no staff during prom, so I've managed locations by myself. You were aware of how hard I'd been working to obtain that position, and I'm fantastic at what I do and love my job. F this company and F you." Guess who went out of business a few years after I left? I moved into a totally different industry, so I guess it was a good thing. I have a bad taste in my mouth from the entire thing, and I will never be involved in another wedding. In the early 2000s, I used to set up Hughes satellite internet. A lot of the work I did was for businesses, but the company messed up that work, so we stopped getting as many business jobs. Because of this, they told me I needed to do TV installations in homes. They didn't pay residential jobs by the hour. Instead, they had set amounts for each type of install. This wasn't the same work at all. For the most part, you could make $16 an hour if you rushed through things and drove between sites as quickly as possible. You were lucky to make minimum wage if you took the time to drive safely and do a good job. I told them, "You need to pay me by the hour or hire me as a 1099 contractor and I'll bill you for all the time and money I spend." But they still didn't listen. They told me no one else is paid that way, so I told them, "Okay, you have 2 options. I'll walk today." I had routes for the week, so they told me I couldn't quit. If I wanted to, I could do so in 2 weeks. I walked away telling them not true. After that, I wrote a letter to the state labor board complaining that the company was trying to treat us like contractors while setting our hours, pay, not giving us benefits, and generally breaking a lot of labor laws. I also gave copies to all of the other workers, which made a lot of them quit and write their own letters to the state. Following a few months, the company wasn't sold to the new owner. Instead, the state fined the company and it quickly went out of business. Have the members of your HOA or any of your neighbors ever done anything absolutely outrageous? Part 8. I attempted to combat a bully who controlled the board and harassed homeowners he didn't like, primarily foreign women who were married to foreigners, by using his and his wife's and best friend's positions. He was able to repeatedly violate our bylaws during his 3 years, 2 of which he had entirely unrestricted without suffering any consequences. He illegally hired himself to manage a 2-page website, tore down the popular iron gates, though he left one section intact, demanded security sit where they could watch his property rather than walk it or hang out at the main gates, called the police whenever he became agitated, which happened more than 6 times with me, harassed people for fines he made up after passing a bylaw that was not put to a vote, only performed the barest minimum of visible repairs and maintenance, and ignored drainage issues when our property flooded. Due to clogged drains, our property was the only one affected by 2 floods that did not affect the entire neighborhood. In addition, I received over 40 nasty grams in a single year. A cease and desist letter was the only thing the attorney did to be of assistance. For the past year and a half, the guy and his group have not been seen on the board. Instead, they spend most of their time hiding in their houses. He occasionally loses all self-control and lets loose to yell at people or otherwise express himself. He and his spouse went on a few days of walking around last August, filming everyone on camera using a cell phone. For me, that is exactly 3 inches from my face. For my small child, it's even closer. My answer? Since the cease and desist letter seemed to be ignored, I loudly asked them if they needed another call to my lawyer and verbally accused them of wearing enough cologne to be French W's. After they both hurried home, I haven't seen them out for walks. Security witnessed this. The neighbors think he has dementia, which is made worse by his hateful base personality. It's a mess, and winning involves being more stubborn and not letting him harass me to sell like a couple of other single women did. When I was in graduate school, one of my classmates was a man of middle age who owned a home in Temecula, California that was located in a homeowners association. He decided to get rid of his front lawn and replace it with an olive tree and some landscaping that's resistant to drought. He faced opposition from the HOA. On the other hand, it appears that there's a law in California that renders any restrictions on planting drought-tolerant landscaping unenforceable. In response to the HOA's attempt to punish him, he filed a lawsuit against the HOA. However, his olive tree has drought-resistant landscaping remained in their original locations, and the homeowners association was required to pay for all of the costs that they incurred as a result of their efforts to collect from him. Following that, additional members of the community started removing their lawns and planting landscaping that could withstand drought conditions. In San Diego, there I resided for 7 years. We were sent a letter stating that the height of our backyard fence was excessive. After looking over the regulations, I discovered that it was 6 inches shorter than standard. Attempts were made, but there was no response. Just like that, they made the decision to ignore it. In the latter part of that year, we were instructed to move the vehicle that had been sitting on the street for an excessive amount of time. Both our vehicles were parked in the garage, which we had 2 of. Another warning regarding the aforementioned automobile. We made it clear to them that the vehicle in question was not ours. There was a fine and a fee for a tow truck included in the 3rd notice. Finally, I brought it to a meeting where I was required to explain what they had done in front of a group of people. The only thing they did was say, "Okay, we'll figure it out." There will be no apology. In their most recent interaction, they sent out a letter in which they stated that they required all house numbers to be painted on the curb as well, and they offered a service for a fee of $60. As a result, I declined it and waited until other people had finished their work. In addition to the stencil, I also obtained some white paint and black spray paint. I was the one who did it, and it appeared to be identical to everyone else's. After a couple of weeks had passed, we received a notice informing us that we required our numbers to be painted, and they reaffirmed their service. All they did was send out letters to the homes who declined the service without actually checking if we had done it or not. They're complete idiots. We were having trouble painting the house. It was required to have your house repainted every 5 years, but I'm not sure where it was stated in the HOA paperwork, which we did not sign. The HOA practically insisted that we hire the same contractor as everyone else, so it was problematic that it had to be the same color as the other houses. In the end, we painted it ourselves, making it 2 shades darker than the other houses, and we received notices, held meetings, and other things. Ultimately, we painted the house a very sophisticated neon green color the following spring. Though the people next to me laughed at it since they detest the house's odd tan color, it's evident that this enraged the HOA. All things considered, the real estate company committed a grave transgression. Although we were informed about the HOA, we never signed the contracts that dealt with them. The attorney who signed off on everything noted the same, not sure how he missed it when he got a $1,000 for signing it, and we got to keep the neon green house. The end. We filed a lawsuit against the HOA because they caused damage to our unit during a fall cleanup approximately 2 years ago. During the cleanup, they cut a tree limb that caused a window in our unit to shatter. They stated that it was our responsibility to repair it, but they refused to do so. We paid for the repairs, and then we filed a lawsuit against them for the $600 to fix it. They hired a lawyer, but they ended up losing. They're obligated to pay our attorney fees as well as the bill for repairs. Due to the fact that they refused to pay $600, the HOA incurred a total of approximately $11,000 in costs. In the aftermath of this case, we brought up the issue of the HOA's lack of competence during the subsequent meeting of the HOA. The fact that they would spend money on lawyers in order to demonstrate their power and intimidate people. Instead of focusing on making the neighborhood better and providing assistance to homeowners, all of this is being done. People were, as one would expect, extremely upset and outraged. At this juncture, a member of the crowd proposed that we remove the current board of directors and choose a new leadership team. Almost immediately, we decided to vote in favor of doing so. The statute of the HOA allowed to do this because the meeting was 90% of the residents. We tried to maximize the number of residents came, sending all invitations and spreading rumors that the meeting will be very interesting. Exactly like that, the change took place. I'm overjoyed that we were able to get rid of these idiots who were sitting on the board earlier. If you want to watch the part 7, click the link here. Thank you for subscribing, the likes, and comments. I'm very happy to see you all in the comments too. Thanks for your support.